What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yanks of the Cop. We are here for our post-match reactions to the very frustrating 0-0 draw against Newcastle. I'm your host, Steve, as always, joined by my brother, Andrew. Wahomie is on another podcast right now. And today we have a very special guest. She's a recurring guest now. We have Mari Lewis. Mari, thanks for coming back. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I am beginning to think of bad luck.
Well, yeah, tough result today, but why don't we kick it off with just like opening statements and Mari, why don't you kick it off? What were just overall thoughts on the game? Anything in particular you want to get out there?
I'd like to have something nice to say. I have literally nothing. It wasn't great at any point. At no point did I feel I was enjoying myself, which is not something I normally have been able to say about any Liverpool performance in a really long time, including West Brom. I thought the first half of West Brom was really, really good, actually. I think we just lost it in the second half completely. This was from start to finish not something I would like to have done with my time today. And unfortunately, I had an emotional investment in it, and it was really not something I wanted to do with my time today. There were very few standouts. I think we don't have the excuse that we're overly tired or anything like that. I think Mane was very good. I think his passing could have been better. When Gini came on, I was reminded of how calming an influence Gini is, which we needed because we could not put two passes together for most of that match. It was mostly a reminder of Liverpool teams from years gone by that I really didn't need a reminder of, because I just was using them as a reason to be so grateful for this one. Yeah.
Totally feel that. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that I'm just so surprised how the team reacted. I think the intensity was there throughout the match. I think they were a little slow at times, but I think the intensity was still there. I said all game that Newcastle, the way that they were lined up, we were going to have chances, and we had 4 or 5 big chances, and we just weren't clinical enough. And you look back a week ago and we beat Crystal Palace 7-0. I don't understand where that level of I don't know, just putting the ball in the back of the net, they've just kind of lost it. So I thought we were going to rebound today. It's tough dropping points to a lower sided team, but overall 2020, it was a good year for us as Reds fans. We won the title, so hopefully more will come with 2021.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a frustrating performance. Really frustrating start to the match. I was really hoping that we'd come out with a loud statement and really put our pedal to the metal. Took us about half of the first half to really get going. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Jess, I never thought, if you told me 2 years ago that this front three would have trouble scoring goals, I wouldn't believe you. I would say no way. And it seems like time and time again this year, we keep talking about these guys not being able to find the ball in the back of the net. In the first half, I thought Bobby played pretty well today, but there was three times at least where his first touch was just off, and if he just had the first touch there, he would have scored.
Right.
Happened with Salah a couple of times, and it's. Again, we're going to go through ups and downs with our form, but it's just frustrating that, we now against the bottom half, I think we've now dropped 8 points against the bottom half of the table, and you can't have that in a title race. But all right, let's go into the rundown. Start talking about the actual game here. But overall, what were your guys' thoughts on the lineup? Obviously, it was good to see Thiago on the bench, but especially Phillips partnering Fabinho and then Milner's return into the midfield. What did you think of Klopp's choices with those? And then also, how do you think those two played? Mario, why don't you start us off?
I'm literally on my phone checking our next game now, because it didn't make sense for me when I saw it. Newcastle didn't seem the Nat Phillips game at all to me. And I'm not just saying that because it proved it, because to me, not to jump ahead, but it did prove that Nat Phillips was not the right choice for that. And I'm not someone who goes negative very often. I think he's solid in what he's good at. I don't think he was very much what we needed today, if that makes sense. And I think Milner didn't do poorly at all, but it was a surprise because we had something of a break. So right. I was number one of Gini needs a rest for the first 10 weeks of the season. But after 8 days and needing points, Gini was not the person I would have rested there. Though there probably was something of an agreement there. And I also I don't know. I wasn't upset with it. I wasn't angry about it at the forefront, but once I saw it in motion, if that makes sense. I wasn't on Twitter angry about the lineup. I never am. I avoid it. I hate that period of time. But we do have Southampton next, and Southampton are very, very good. They're tactically aware. It does, now that I'm looking at it, it makes sense to give people who we need to be tireless a rest, which is Gini Wijnaldum. So fair enough. Wasn't hugely happy or unhappy with the lineup. I'm having trouble not having comments based on how it played out.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna go a different route there. I actually was a little disappointed. I didn't think that Curtis Jones would start. I thought Milner actually might have had a chance, but I thought Oxlade-Chamberlain should have seen some minutes, or Shaqiri. And when you look at that midfield today and that midfield against West Brom, they just struggle with the tempo of the game. They oftentimes, instead of switching the field or switching the ball, they decide to go to the center back, who then passes to the other center back, who goes back to the midfielder. It's just so slow in there, and it just takes us so much time to get the ball to our front three, and it makes things easy for the opposing side. So I was thrilled to see Thiago come on finally in the 75th minute. But other than that, I was overall disappointed. I agree with Mari. I think that Phillips was the wrong choice as well. I actually thought Reece should have been in there. All game it seemed like Phillips was struggling with Callum Wilson, who actually did a really good job in this game holding up the ball. But Phillips just seemed a little reckless at times. Was out of position sometimes. I'm not going to blame the guy. He's our sixth choice center back, but I'm very surprised Klopp chose to go with him over Reece Williams.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Reece was going to get the start just because he seems to be a lot more confident, when the game is being played on the ground, and as long as there's not a bunch of balls being whipped in. But I thought he would have been great on Wilson. Yeah, there's a couple times, especially there early on, the first 10 minutes, he roasted Nat Phillips a couple times.
Yeah.
So that was definitely disappointing. And yeah, Milner. I kind of expected that he was going to start too, but I guess the thing that's frustrating is that you see now time and time again, teams have figured out how you have to line up to have a chance against Liverpool, and that is playing the low block. And it seems like we just keep running out the same thing over and over again, and it's just how many times are you going to keep doing the same thing? This is literally the definition of this doing stupid shit. So yeah. It's you know what I mean? You gotta change it up every once in a while. Like you said, I think it would have been perfect for a guy like Ox or Shaqiri to get in there, who can just add maybe a little bit more creativity, a little bit more pace when they're on the ball. So I was a little bit disappointed, but again, like Morris said, I'm not going to really complain. I think Klopp knows best, most of the time. But I think if I had my choice, I just would have went the other direction. But how concerned are you guys with, again, another slow start? I feel like this is now every single away game, we just can't seem to get the ball going until about the 20-minute mark, and then we start turning it on. We can't keep doing this.
Go ahead,
Mari. I'm not that concerned. We've had a lot of injuries, and we've had a lot of good results despite them. And we've watched Klopp manage tough schedules after his first year. So, after that first full year where we looked good and then we absolutely lost it after the holiday period, and Klopp was like, what is this? This isn't normal. This isn't something that we should be expected to do, right? Mm-hmm. So we can expect him to have known that this particular schedule was terrible. Our pressures have been really low all year. They have been lower than last year at this phase and against the same opposition. They've been quite a bit lower, almost between 50 and 100 lower pressure moments in each game. And I find it hard to believe that that would be just a players not caring. I think that's an on-purpose thing. I think knowing that we have a lot of injuries and we're just trying to get through still. I think we, as fans, think we've gotten through, and I think Klopp as a manager is we're not through yet. I would love to start Thiago, but I can't. I would love to be able to rotate more, but I absolutely can't. I would love to take Robertson off, but I absolutely can't. And we all saw Robertson go down injured and almost all collectively die.
Hard stuff. Oh yeah.
Like that I was like, oh, it was just a deeply painful rake on your Achilles. I'm so grateful for that because I didn't see what happened. I thought it was a muscle injury. Like I don't want to be in that spot, but I think Klopp is in that spot, and I think we're purposefully starting really slowly. I don't know if it's going to pay off, and I don't think when I say that I think we're purposefully starting slowly and not having the same intensity, I don't think that means we're aiming for these results. Okay. I think we're failing to get the results that we're aiming for. I think we've set up the chances to get those results. I think those two things are related, if that makes sense. I think we have a plan and we're failing to execute that plan, and that is actually more worrying for me than the slow start. I think the slow start is part of the plan and we're not doing it. Mm-hmm. We're not losing loads, which is why I'm sort of measured on it. This is absolutely a title fight, and I'm not used to that at all because we do one of those accidentally and then just fall off for 5 years. So I don't have any sort of mental capacity to go into a third year. Like we're doing this, but it's not perfection. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's not on purpose is all I'm saying. I do think that we should be disappointed. I don't think we should be disappointed by the short start. I think we should be, or slow start. I think we should be disappointed by our failure to take the chances. So as has been said, like we put on a clinic of finishing against Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
But we put on a clinic of finishing just against Crystal Palace and against no one else. So this is not the first time we drop points because we can't finish when given decent chances. Brighton is a solid choice. Like there are a number of these where we've had these chances and we've just not done anything with them. And we've given up chances as well. And I think part of that is not on purpose, but we're not playing to be overly defensive. We don't have the personnel.
Lots of injuries.
If we're putting Nat Phillips in, we're not. I've seen Reece Williams improve drastically on how he holds the line over his past 3 games, including like late realizations that he's off and coming back on when we're looking at replays and seeing that, no, they're not offsides because Reece realized and sprinted back, which he didn't do in his first couple of weeks in as a starter. So like he did improve. That's my reason of like, I was very surprised to not see him start today because Newcastle, anyway, but I'm worried. I'm worried for loads of reasons. I'm not worried because of a slow start specifically, because I think teams have picked us out as a team that they can come at quickly, and if they withhold our first 15 minutes, they'll be fine. I think Klopp has seen that and gone, all right, we just won't use that first 15 minutes. Yeah, that's fine. But if we don't use the next period of time, that's not useful. I'm just stressed for the first 15 minutes for no reason whatsoever.
I hear that.
Yeah, well said, Mari. I mean, I guess I'll just add that I'm not worried for, I would say, three reasons. And number one is actually mentioned here in the chat by Chris Welch. He did say that it's time for our forwards to put on shooting drills. The chances we had, we should be scoring. No excuses. Another frustrating result with ourselves to blame again. More dropped points. Yeah, I mean, I'll agree to an extent, Chris. I just think that today and maybe last game against West Brom, it just wasn't there for the front three. I actually thought Bobby played really well today. He was one of our best players. But the good news is that I think we have the best front three, if not one of the best front threes in the world. So this is not going to be a permanent thing this season. They're gonna figure it out. They're gonna get it done. So that's my first reason why I'm not worried. Their touches just seem to be a little bit off from my point of view. But number two is that this is just kind of how this season is going. You know, you're seeing a lot of the top 6 dropping points every week. It seems, you know, Chelsea's dropping points, United's dropping points, City's dropping points, and luckily for us, Chelsea and City play each other this weekend. So there's still a lot more surprises to come from this season. It's like Mari said earlier, it's definitely going to be a proper title race. I don't think we're going to be seeing 100 points, definitely not now from anybody, and probably not even 90 points. You know, you might see 82 points that might win the title. I'm not really sure, but and finally, we have Thiago back. Thiago's back. You know, you just saw his immediate effect. He's like a godsend in that midfield, and I think once he gets some solid game time and some consistency on the pitch, you're going to start to see that front three really start to flourish.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that that concerns me about the slow start is if a team does find a way to get one by us, because then at that point it's 10 men, 11 men behind the ball at all times, and we've seen that problem. But like you said, and this is kind of like a perfect transition into the second half. We do have Thiago back, and he only played less than 20 minutes, but his spell was absolutely phenomenal. And I thought this game that going forwards, Robbo and Trent played incredibly well, and this is really the first time too in like a long time I remember both of them being really effective in the same game going forwards.
I thought Trent struggled. I thought he was inconsistent out there. He put some good balls in. He had like 2 key passes. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Like, but I mean putting in those dangerous crosses, and like you saw, then they started to have to adjust to that. And now when you have Thiago come in and then just put on, like I counted at least 7 passes that he hit today that I don't think anyone else on our team would have hit in that situation. Like it was just absolutely beautiful.
I actually tweeted something during the game before Thiago came on the pitch. There were so many different times where I was watching the midfielders and they just didn't have the guts to make a pass, whether it's a chip over one of the forwards or a switch of play. The only one who really could was Henderson, but Jones and Milner really lacked that skill. And once Thiago came on, that's what you saw. He was just threading the needle to Gini Wijnaldum, threading the needle to Trent or Robertson, and that's what he can do. So I think that when he's on the pitch, you're going to see a lot of teams that play the low block really start to struggle.
So I have something controversial to say.
Okay. Hot take here.
Getting ready for the hot take.
I think Henderson's been off. I think
that is a hot take. Really hot take. Scorching.
So I say this as informed by my ex-housemate, who is far more negative than I am, but who has always been far more the Henderson person than I have been. Like, I've always liked Henderson. He's always been we need to kill everyone who hates Henderson sort of thing. I'm just generally a positive fan anyway, because I don't do this to be angry every week if I can avoid it, so I don't want to yell. Yeah. But against West Brom, he felt sort of timid to me. He felt like he wasn't outside of the first half. So the first half, I thought everyone played really well. I thought we were doing exactly what our plan was. I thought we were penetrating at the exact right moments. Could have scored more, but didn't, right? The second half, I thought we were not great on the ball. We were pretty timid. It wasn't the standard Twitter always pass back or sideways Henderson, but he's usually very, very good on tempo, and I didn't think he controlled the tempo very well in the second half of West Brom. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it was a him problem today or not, but tonight I felt like there was literally no tempo to be had when we were in possession. I felt it was a lot more desperate than normal, and with him on the pitch, I think that is his job. So I can't put my finger on anything that he specifically did wrong, but I do think we were very disjointed. And if he's in charge of the midfield that we put out, I do think that's his job. He's the one who's supposed to marshal everyone. And we had an extremely senior staff on field, if you will, by Nat Phillips. And I'm not sure we're making any arguments that Curtis Jones isn't a senior player anymore. So we had a bunch of really experienced players on the field who all had their jobs given to them. And Henderson should be the one to dictate the tempo because we don't have Fabinho in that role anymore. So it felt very disjointed when we won possession in that transition. And it was also disjointed up front. Like, I'm not saying that every single one of the front three did not misplace a pass to each other. But I do think that glue in the midfield was in part because of Henderson. And as much as I would like to blame someone else, I think he's been a bit off for 2 games.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you're not wrong in the sense, like, when you look at today's game, like the midfield was invisible today, and like when they had the ball, like you said, like everything lollygagged, everything took forever, and again, like I felt like our offense was just like hit a long ball, and hope Salah and Mane can take it down. If Firmino didn't find it, it was okay. Just hit the ball long to those 2 guys, hope they get it, and there was just no creativity. There was no ball movement. It was all slow. And like the only time I really felt like there was anything with pace coming out of the back, it was coming from Robertson's side and him creating up the wing. So that definitely is a concern. And you mentioned it earlier, Mario, like when Gini Wijnaldum came into the game, it was almost like he had this calming influence. And it's like, maybe Henderson really felt that impact of not having Gini next to him. Maybe that was it today, because no, you're right. The ball definitely moved a little bit slower today than typical.
Yeah, it was.
And,
I mean,
and
for
we
me,
say it
when
all the
Genie
time. We say it all the time with Henderson, though. It's always like when he's not in there, you notice a difference. And maybe we
yeah,
can say the same thing about Genie Wijnaldum.
yeah. I mean, when Genie came on, I felt like we just stopped losing the ball stupidly
Mhm.
in the midfield and specifically through Genie, but through a number of players as well. It was just like smarter decisions were being made. Not more risky ones, not ones that were setting up more shots or anything like that. But it felt during a number of periods before Genie Wijnaldum came onto the pitch that it was more like lower level sides playing against each other. Like if you took the shirts away and told me it was a championship playoff and it was not the two favorites, that was about the level that I would have taken it as. Like if it were, it just didn't look good. And it didn't look good because the players were bad. It just looked very disjointed and weirdly desperate in certain points, which was weird because we weren't playing for, quote unquote, anything. But it didn't seem as organized, calm, like there was trust that we would do something. It seemed like we really wanted to just clear it, and not just when Nat Phillips was on the ball. We just really wanted to get it out of our defense. And then our midfield wasn't really keen on getting the ball either. And no, I don't mean that as like an insult to Nat Phillips. He should do that. That's what he's trained to do, and he does it well. He's very good when he plays really well.
Yeah.
And he didn't play poorly today necessarily, but I think he was matched up poorly, and in part because the midfield was so poor. I don't think it was really a Nat Phillips problem necessarily. I think he was exposed very drastically because of us, not because of Newcastle. But it didn't seem like us playing. It didn't seem like any cohesive Liverpool team were playing at any point, and we had very much a first team on the field, and that's not great.
Yeah, I want to get to what Sophie said in the chat. Sophie's a recurring guest here on Yanks of the Cop, and she said, shocking game, can't keep blaming performances on injuries. We've built an empire of mentality monsters, and the boys aren't showing that. She also said that Genie is everything, which I agree with. I'm actually going to disagree with the hot take from Mari. I think that Henderson has been absolutely phenomenal the whole season, ever since he's got back from that injury. He's actually my man of the match, maybe the past 2 games, I think. But maybe it was 2 games ago. I don't remember what it was. But I thought he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's been the mop out there. For me, I think Mari was kind of hitting it on the head, was that the intensity was there, and they tried. I just think that they tried too hard, and the sharpness wasn't there. That's what it was. Their touches were a little bit off. Like you said, that cohesiveness of the squad just wasn't really there. It's just every time we tried to build something, it seemed to go against us, and I don't really know what it is. They're definitely not acting like mentality monsters, which is what Sophie kind of hinted at there. It's very strange.
Well, one thing I kind of want to talk about with this game was like Klopp's substitutions. I guess I see a lot, like especially on social media, of people saying Klopp subbing too late. Maybe that we should do more substitutions around the 60-minute mark and not so much 75. Oh, what's up, homie? Welcome back.
Homie joined us.
What do you think? And Marek, I especially want to get your opinion on that. Like, do you look into that at all with him kind of using his subs later in the game?
I mean, I haven't disagreed with the Klopp substitution for a really long time, which actually reminds me of how early Klopp era I disagreed with all of his substitutions for about a year and a half, if I'm remembering it right? Like that, it was always weirdly late, and I hated it because it was just like, why are you subbing anyone at 81? They can't do anything.
Yeah. Or 92 for Shaq. Like, come on.
I would have to say on this one, this may have just been a planned substitution game. Like, he may have expected something different to happen and did not have players healthy on the bench to play more than they were subbed onto. Like, he may have just been told, like, I don't think Klopp is dumber than we are and watched what we watched and went, no, this is going well. This is a great game. This is what I wanted to see. But I do think he may have wanted to get these specific players on the pitch and give them time. and knew that they couldn't have more than this specific period of time. I especially think the Robertson maybe injury early may have made a difference, but
I thought he was going to get subbed. I thought Robertson was going to get subbed.
I did too for a while, because I was, and I do have to, like, full disclosure, it is my boyfriend's birthday, so I was watching him for a while, and I looked back about 5 minutes after the start of the second half, and I saw Milner in something like a left back area, and I was like,
oh God.
Robertson was on the ball a bit later, and it was fine. But no, I do think, like, he's gone off subbing terribly. He subbed terribly for a really long time. I disagreed with his subs for a really long time. But subsequently, he's been relatively good at them. And we all wanted to see Thiago, and it may just be that Thiago could not put in more than X amount of minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And he wants to get Shaq healthy, but Shaq couldn't put in more than X amount of minutes. So it might be we should be angry about 5 subs specifically this match, because if he had 5 subs, he may have subbed earlier based on the game state. But he had this specific match planned for fitness specific things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is a Chris Wilder shout out, is what I'm saying.
Ooh.
Wilder.
But no, I'm not really. I don't get it. If I'm not trying to make excuses, I don't get it, because we were poor. I at no point. I'm a very optimistic person, and I did not feel that we were going to score there. I wanted subs earlier. I didn't particularly want Ox. I know you wanted Ox. I didn't think Ox was that great last time. I think he lost the ball a lot, and I think we as a collective were losing the ball a lot already.
But he was on for 10 minutes, and he's rusty. Like, he needs game time.
If you look into my past article writing for Liverpool.com, I have written articles about how Ox is wronged for this specific reason. But he is rusty, and that's the real reason that, like, if we're chasing a game, wouldn't want to bring on a guy who's still rusty.
I just think Ox would have been more impactful.
If you can't bring on Thiago earlier than you can, you're kind of stuck.
I just think Ox would have been more impactful than having Curtis Jones in there. Curtis Jones just was really floppy. Tweeted to me earlier on. I think it was homie. It was the second half. He was just like, maybe we should bring on Oxlade-Chamberlain. No, maybe it was early on in the first half. And you're like, maybe you should bring on Oxlade-Chamberlain or Shaqiri or somebody to make
it was the 12th minute, I'm sure.
Yeah. I saw it coming. You know, I said before the game, if you're playing a low block and it's a Spurs who are going to counter-attack you and leave space behind, Jones works. But you're playing a low block that's going to just put 2 lines behind the 2 banks or 4 and play it deep. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I love Jones, and I think he's going to be an amazing player, right now, he's, in terms of breaking down a low block, he doesn't have it in terms of creativity and he holds on to the ball too many times. You know, like, and he wasn't the only one, but I feel like too many of our players were doing like 2 or 3 touches before they pass the ball. And it's so easy for opposition to get players behind the ball. I feel personally, I hear everything what you're saying, and I agree that maybe Ox couldn't have been brought on. I don't understand what happened to Minamino. Why is it since Minamino scored a goal against Palace, he's just been thrown on the bench? Surely he could have come on and offer something different tonight. He's good in tight spaces. So I just feel like I'm not as angry as I was before after the other podcast. It's kind of been like therapy. But I'll still say this. That's 8 points dropped to teams in the bottom half. That's not good enough. You know.
Thiago was on a minutes restriction, though. You have to agree on that. He came on 75th.
Probably. Maybe there was. Maybe.
Last time I was on, we talked about Naby Keita. And I think that's what we should be talking about right now, because this is a game he would have started and would have made a huge difference.
But why hasn't he started?
Because availability and ability.
I was the one saying, all right, so what I will say generally is that we can afford to have so many very good players who are never available because they're never available. Do you know how expensive Joel Matip would be if he was available every week? We wouldn't be able to afford, like, we underrate him. In the scouting stuff I look at, he is ridiculously good just based on skill, right?
Top 5 in the world.
That's a number of players that we have that are just never available for us. However, there are certain points where you can call out specific games that you think players were involved in managers' specific game plans. And I think this is one of them. I don't think it was an Ox game. I don't think it was a Minamino game. I do think it was a Naby Keita game.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's the thing. Obviously, Naby's never fit. So
yeah, every game could be a Naby Keita game.
Yes, it's a blow.
Based on pattern, every time Klopp can play Keita in a game that he needs to get points out of, he plays him.
Yeah.
I think as well, like, I hate bringing up again, but this again reminds me of playing Jota in a needless Champions League game where he's perfect for the game.
He's a
Perfect
fourth
game.
choice. He's a fourth choice. He's a fourth choice. He should be played in that game. He didn't lose out for a muscle injury. He got injured in that game because someone kicked him.
He had played a lot of games before that, though.
Actually, though.
He played a lot of games. What are you talking about?
Look at his minutes. He didn't play a lot of games.
That's true.
He came out to sub a lot. He just scored loads, so we think he played more than he did. Are you actually telling me that you bought Diogo Jota and told him that you're resting the first three and you're not playing him in a game that he could get Champions League minutes and goals?
Yeah, I wouldn't because I think
kicked in the leg.
I think for the bigger picture,
I don't think you're doing that to the player. I don't think
the homie and I were proved right.
The big game's coming up. There are big games coming up. Now we don't have him in a game that didn't matter. We read it through.
If Salah got injured in that game, I would buy this argument, but he's our fourth choice player. He should have played in that game. There's no, like, the only reason I think Salah played in that game is because Salah didn't want to come off before, and Salah was given, spoke not to play that game.
He was starting over Firmino, though.
He could have this argument.
He started to take Firmino's spot.
What?
He started to take Firmino's place. There was like
with Firmino. In the only in league games he played with Firmino. He never took Firmino's spot. The only time he took Firmino's spot was outside of league games.
Don't know about that. There's a lot of hot takes going along now. A lot of hot takes.
I mean, Twitter took Firmino's spot for about 3 straight weeks.
But Wahome, I know you were on another podcast, but what were your thoughts on Thiago's performance today?
I thought he gave us that injection of quality that we needed. I think we created at least 2 good chances from him when he came on with balls he put out. And I don't think we gave the ball enough to him as we should have done. I think in the last 10 minutes, I don't understand why we're passing the ball at the back. Why pass him onto defence when we need a goal? And it was the same against West Brom where we're too casual in our passing and with no urgency to try and get a goal. So, but I thought he was, if it is medical and he couldn't play longer, I thought he looked outstanding and exactly what we've been missing. And we need to get him on the ball more often because I think there's a lot of things that went wrong today. Other than missed chances, I think we were only strong down one side of the flank in Robbo. I thought again Trent was poor again tonight, and I think we rely on both our fullbacks being strong. I think there are times when Charles gave Trent the ball and his crosses weren't good. So I think there were quite a few players who didn't have a good game today. And it's kind of a recurring thing now because, are we confident against Southampton? To be honest, that we're going to win that game away? Are we confident?
Yes, I'm very confident.
Based on what? I'm not saying we win, but I'm saying based on what? What's your confidence based on?
I don't think so. I think Southampton's going to play football. I don't think they're going to sit in a low block or try to defend for 90 minutes like the past 2 games. I think that it might be a similar situation to Southampton, not in terms of the scoreline by any means, but Crystal Palace tried to play football against us. I think Southampton's going to try to do the same. I mean, they're in what, 6th place, 5th place? They should have nothing to fear going against Liverpool. They haven't feared anybody else all season. So I would expect them to come out, and those are the teams that we really punish.
And are you not a bit worried about Danny Ings versus Nat Phillips or Williams?
Of course I'm worried about Danny Ings, yeah.
They're going to get skinned. They're going to get skinned. I wouldn't play either of them in that game. I wouldn't. I would play Hendo at centre-back. I would play Hendo at centre-back, personally.
Is Danny Ings for sure playing?
Yeah, I think he was on the bench last game for them.
Okay.
But I want to get back to Thiago real quick. Thiago, when he came on the pitch, like what homie said, just injected quality right away. And he just does so many good things to the best of his ability. I mean, the guy can win head balls, and he's what, like 5'6", going against like a 6-footer. It's just he uses both feet so effectively. His vision, his press resistance, like I could talk about this guy for days. He's just unbelievable. But I also want to say I did check Jota's minutes. He played 90 minutes against Aston Villa. He played 82 minutes against Sheffield, 90 minutes against City.
But he never started in front of Roberto Firmino, specifically in the Premier League. He started in front of Salah once, and he started with the front three.
Regardless, he had a lot of minutes going into that game, and then he got hurt.
Most of his minutes are Champions League and elsewhere. All I'm saying is he was the fourth choice. He gave Salah,
You're right.
and I think
You're right.
we as fans really like him because he scores loads. But we're actually misplacing that like because we should be really happy that we have such a good fourth choice who could, if he hadn't gotten injured, come on and fucking score. Sorry.
No, it's good. You're fine.
Come on and score. Like there aren't many teams who have that. Like we're talking about Timo Werner just not scoring at all, right?
Yeah.
We have a front three who all three of them, not today, but all three of them, including Roberto Firmino this year, have been scoring. They've been looking quite good. Each of them in their own game. So Mane has looked poor, but then that turn against West Brom, which will be lost to the mist of history because we didn't win, that turn against West Brom was incredible. And my man deserved to win that game.
I just feel like it was a throwaway game. We all end it here. It was a throwaway game. If it was a Carabao Cup game, Jota wouldn't have played. So why would he play in this Champions League match?
I think because we're talking as fans and we're not talking as players. I think you need to understand that players want to play in the Champions League. Why did Salah start?
Players always want to play.
Players want to score in those games. And if the fitness coaches say that they can play, you would have this argument is fair if he had a muscle injury. He didn't have a muscle injury. He got injured because a player kicked him.
He does now.
That can happen in any game. You can't tell a player that he can't play because he might get kicked. Like that's just not a thing that you can. I get your standpoint. I want to be with your standpoint.
I understand yours. I just
it would make me like much more at peace because I could just be angry. But I'm just angry at the world in general instead of at choices made. And that's much less peaceful because I know. Can you imagine Klopp? Like, we like to talk about how our entire camp is at peace and how everyone from top to bottom gets along. And I don't think that happens if Klopp goes, no, none of my good players can play in this game where I think we could score a lot of Champions League goals and you might get a Champions League appearance, et cetera, because some of you might get injured, even though fitness-wise you're sound. Like, I have no reason to think that you will have a muscle injury in this game. But I can't play you because you might get kicked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're not telling a professional footballer that.
Yeah.
Just look at the really awful tweet that Gary Lineker did about you never sub a player because he's exhausted. That's the thing. Like, players don't want to come off unless you have a very specific fitness-related reason to tell them that they can't start. You're not telling them that they can't start. And if you're talking to Jota, his actual contract might say he was playing that game. His contract might have said that he's playing X amount of group games or what have you. We got him for a really good deal.
That's true.
I don't know.
We'll always disagree. Let's move on.
All right. Well, really the last thing I just want to touch on is, now that we're at the calendar turn here, right after Christmas, we're technically 3 points on top of the table, but United's got the game in hand. Like, overall, like, are you happy with where we are?
If you said to me, we have this many injuries,
yeah,
and all the viruses that went against us, I'll take it. But there'd still be a massive disappointment to me, the fact that, if you look at it, on one side of the spectrum, we've beaten most of the big teams. We've done really well against the big teams. Because the bottom teams we struggle against, and that's the main Achilles heel. And it reminds me back to the 17-18 season where draws cost us the title, and we need to fix that. We need to fix our away form. Away form, again, is the biggest concern here. It's not good enough. A club of Liverpool size, that's what really frustrated me the other night when seeing West Brom get smashed by Leeds, and I was just like, we're much. I don't know, but it just we just need to fix this away form. And I think as well, the break didn't help us. I don't think having that. I think we had
Agreed.
a shorter break into the last game and this game would be different. But I think when we have a long break, we don't play as well after that, and it always affects us. And so that's why I'm also not really happy the fact that after Southampton we've got a 2-week break before Man United. That's going to affect us as well in terms of how fast we start that game, especially with no fans. I don't think we need to get back to winning ways pronto. And whatever Klopp needs to do, get his best 11 on the pitch and get a win at all costs.
Yeah. For me, yeah, if you look at it on paper, our 3 summer signings are all injured, or were all injured. Thiago is just getting back. Our 2 starting center backs are injured and out for the year. And our front 3 have not been nearly as clinical as past seasons. So, I mean, if I'm a Liverpool fan, which I am, I'm very happy where we are in the table. But I do think that the United game is massive. Absolutely massive.
Of course. Yeah, what do you think, Mari?
I'm disappointed. I think what we have right now is a relatively easy run-in. We had more of a break than anyone else. We had a chance to go ahead and make all the teams chasing us have a really, really steep mountain to climb. And we allowed it to become a title race in these last 2 matches. If we had beaten 2 teams that we very easily should have beaten by metrics, by place on the table, by everything, we should be free and clear for a couple of weeks with everyone else trying to figure out what they need to do to catch us. And instead what's happening is we're being spoken about in the same level of Man United, which is fine. We have a lot of injuries. It's fine. But we're going to have these injuries all season. So we needed to find a way to win, and we did have the skill to win for both of these last 2 matches, and so excuses really aren't useful. And we did have a break. We had a break to do it. There are some good things, I will say. Last season we had 19 different goal scorers. This season we have 14 already. That's not a terrible thing. So Jota being out is a bad thing. I will argue about whether or not he's 4th choice. I won't argue about how important he is being on the goal scoring charts. So I want to be clear on that. I definitely don't want him injured. Obviously, I think our 4th most goal scorer last year was Oxlade-Chamberlain on 4 goals after our front 3. And we all know that Firmino didn't score loads last year. This year, Firmino's scoring more. Our front 3 is great, in part because we've been given penalties again, and Salah is actually very good at them, even if he always makes me nervous. But Jota is 4th on 9 after this part of the season. And last season, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain scored 4 or 5 to be in that position. So as awful as we seem, and as much as our group stage dominance does actually buy into that, we're not terrible where we are. So I'm very much middle of the road. I think we really need to do better. I think we're making it very stressful on ourselves. I think we're making the January transfer window interesting, because I think if we'd won all 3 of the last 3 games, I don't necessarily think we would have bought a center back. Now I'm firmly in the I think we have to buy one camp, because if we don't trust Reece Williams to play against Newcastle, and we did that, I think we need to buy one, and that sucks, but I think we do. Yep. It might be buying out Alaba before we needed to, but I don't know. I'm not overly optimistic, but yeah, same.
Yeah.
Soon.
Man, really agree, Nick.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, my thought is this, I'll take it. I thought with all these injuries, I thought, I legitimately did not know if we were going to be in first place or not with all the injuries that we got. And the fact that we are is definitely a good sign. But when I really think about it, though, it's it's these last 2 games that kill me. It's just these last 2 against West Brom and Newcastle. If we just had those 4 extra points, then in my opinion, absolutely perfect. But dropping these points and knowing that United, a 1 win away from being with us is concerning. But we have Thiago back now, and the fact that we're still on top of the table, I think that's going to be just absolutely massive for us. And when you look at the big teams that we've played, you've already played City on the road, you've already played Chelsea on the road. We've played a lot of big matches, have those out of the way already. So, second half of the season, I think Thiago being back, and if Trent can find his form again, we'll be right on point. But let's close it up. Let's get real quick. We'll go around the horn with our man of the match. I know it was a tough one to pick for this game. I'm going to start. I'm going to say Bobby Firmino for me. Again, his final touch failed him a couple times, but it really seemed like anytime he found the ball, things were going well. And he had probably five good chances they could have scored. I would have loved to see him put one in, but that being said, I think it's good.
I've got
for
one.
me, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Maury.
Alisson, as a potentially unpopular choice, Alisson made a couple of incredible saves. Not necessarily any reaction to point blank. All of them should have been saved, but he saved them. He saved them calmly, and he recycled the ball well. And I don't think anyone really played very well, but we very easily on any of those occasions could have gone down and lost because we weren't producing up front. So it had to be him for me. And that's, I guess, my comment on how awful I found this game to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say. Go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
Mari, who'd you say? I'm sorry.
Alisson.
Oh yeah, he had a great save there at the end. I'm going to go Andy Robertson. I thought he was the only one who really offered anything in terms of a threat to Newcastle. I mean, obviously he had some big chances with Salah and Firmino, but Robertson has just been so consistent. I think his passing accuracy was in the high 80s today, whereas Trent was, I think, 78%. So he's been outshining Trent. And I also said that in this game that Trent would be the X factor, and he didn't really show it for me. So I thought Andy Robertson has been doing it all season. He did it again this game. Unfortunately, we didn't get the result.
I was going to say Alisson, but I'm going to say Fabinho. I think once again, Fabinho been the best player on the pitch for us. Saved us quite a few times. That block in the first half when Phillips got done.
Yeah.
If he doesn't make that challenge to perfection, we're 1-0 down. And it's a different complex of the game. So I think again, he's the shining light at centre back, having to carry his defensive partner again and making sure that he's in the right position, right place, and for someone who doesn't actually want to be at centre back, he always wants to be in midfield. I think he's been outstanding. So he'd get my call. If Maury hadn't said Alisson, I would have sent him.
I'm even more upset that I interrupted you as well. I assume when you said I could go, you did not think I would take it from you as well.
He's a fair sport.
All right. Well, hopefully we can bounce back Monday against Southampton, solidify ourselves on top of the table a little bit. But that pretty much wraps up this episode. Maury, thanks for joining us again. It's a lot of fun with you. We'll have to have you on again. Hopefully after a win next time.
Jesus Christ.
Love the banter, Maury. Love the banter.
But if everyone who's tuning in, really appreciate you guys. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. But we'll be back for our pre-match Southampton. Otherwise, up the Reds, and we'll see you guys next time.
The Reds. Happy New Year.